Hello, welcome to News Center. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be in India for the annual India-Russia summit. Over the next 72 hours, his tightly packed itinerary ranges from a private dinner with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, a series of meetings with top Indian business leaders. He's travelling with 7 ministers and a major business delegation, which is a strong signal that economic cooperation is expected to dominate this visit. Amid mounting Western sanctions on Russia, this trip carries extra significance. Officials expect the visit would yield about 10 intergovernmental agreements and up to 15 commercial deals. Both nations reaffirmed their shared goal of reaching a $100 billion bilateral trade target by 2030. In FY25, the bilateral trade reached $68.7 billion, marking over a 4% rise from the previous year. On the energy front, even as some Indian firms scaled back Russian oil purchases under US pressure, India has continued buying crude from non-sanctioned Russian suppliers. In fact, nearly 35% of India's crude imports in November came from Russia. Estimates suggest Russian oil imports may remain around 800,000 barrels per day in December. On defense, both sides are expected to announce ratification of a new military logistics pact, enabling each to access the other's military bases. Russia is also likely to push for full technology transfer for the Su-57 fighter jet and may propose selling the S-500 air defense system to India, though no decision is expected on that front during this visit. Both sides are set to ink an agreement on migration of Indian skilled workers to Russia as well. Joining us right now to take this forward is former Indian ambassador to Russia, Ajai Malhotra. Ambassador Malhotra, thank you very much for being with us on the program. At a time when the United States is watching India very closely, we don't have a trade deal, those differences still exist. How do you think India will balance ties with Putin and Donald Trump?
You know, we are clear about one thing. We are not a regional balancing entity for anyone. India is looking to its own interests. India comes first, and everyone else needs to fall in place to the extent they can. And if not, we'll see how to adjust. So, we also have no aspirations to be anything less than a re-emerging power, which we are. We are not a vassal to anyone, nor do we want to be one. So if you look at it in that context, you understand what we mean by when we say strategic autonomy, when we say multi-alignment. We want to move forward in our relations with all countries to the best extent that we can. There's nobody out there who we feel deserves to be kind of rebuffed by us, no matter how bad the relationship. I would say perhaps with one exception, which is Pakistan at the moment, simply because of their support and sponsorship for terrorism, which has been harmful to us, and they have proved to be a very troublesome sort of neighbor.
You know, I would also like to ask you about the size of President Putin's delegation. He's coming with 7 ministers, including his Minister for Economy, Minister for Agriculture, Minister of Defense, the Russian Central Bank head, a large business delegation as well. He's going to launch a Russia Today channel in India as well. How big is this visit for Putin in terms of scale, in terms of impact, and also in terms of media outreach?
Well, for the business part, let me say it is normal. They normally come with very large delegations, like some other countries do. The Americans travel with large delegations. We've seen that very often, and which is a good thing, which shows that whichever the country is, it is keen to develop business ties with the host. So it's not unusual, and it's a good sign, and it shows seriousness of intent. And also it gives assurance to the Indian business circles, bearing in mind that, they are under sanctions. We are also under sanctions, as it were, due to the difficulties made in our purchasing oil from the Russians, from the Americans. So it's still useful for both sides to understand each other better. And it's good that the bankers will be coming, the Russian bankers will be coming, because you have to see beyond merely expanding payment settlement in national currencies. There are special accounts that have been drawn up, what are known as Vostro accounts, which help to tackle the rupee accumulation that has taken place due to purchase of discounted crude in the past. So all this is reassuring for any business person that, yes, okay, I can come and ask and I can understand and then take a decision. Do I want to get involved with this particular item or not, or do something else? As to RT,
All right.
the Russian TV station, I think that's also good. The Russians have been inattentive to media in the past, and it's good that they don't want to let Western narratives only dominate the airwaves. India must know both sides, so we are happy to welcome them.
All right. I'll also ask you about the regulatory impediments. We've been speaking to the Indian side about what we want to achieve. And they've repeatedly said the focus will be on economic cooperation. Now, in light of that, how does India manage to increase exports of pharmaceuticals, textiles, agri-products to Russia? Now, the Russian Deputy Prime Minister, before coming here, he said that we will do all we can to open up our markets. What are some of the regulatory issues, Ambassador Malhotra, which you've been seeing over the years?
Well, one of the problems has long been shipping, and therefore, when we looked at the international north-south transportation corridor, but given that there are sanctions on Iran at the moment, I don't see that any businessman would look at sending goods crossing through two countries facing sanctions from India. So I think the effort to to improve shipping in other directions is a good one. There's also the matter of banking and letters of credit being opened. There's also the issue of insurance cover. But more than that, in many cases, for example, for agricultural crops, it is phytosanitary considerations for and for seafood to get all the approvals. We have also a rather solid bureaucracy in India, and the Russians are fairly similar in that sense. So when these two bureaucracies meet, it creates things move even more slowly than normal. So it's only the pressure of the summit that helps move them along in some instances, and it is good that it is there, because otherwise decisions get postponed, etc. But there are opportunities out there, and we do hope that our business takes advantage of them. Pharma, fertilizers, nuclear energy, manpower deployment, as you mentioned, and we'll be signing in other spheres also, SMT, space, defense. There would be, as you said, the equivalent of the LIMOA, RELOS, as they call it. So there would be things on which we can move forward. And it is good that you have a visit incoming, which pushes it along.
My final question to you, sir, would be around defense. We've been told that we'll not sign any big-ticket defense deal around this visit. But we have seen how India is replenishing stocks for the S-400 in terms of ordering more missiles. That's a separate deal. It's not connected to this visit. Russia wants to pitch for the Su-57, S-500. We'll not convey anything. But in terms of future cooperation, behind-the-scenes discussions, what kind of direction do you expect this visit to pave for India defense ties? What would you be looking for as someone who's been a very close watcher of India-Russia relations for decades?
You see, traditionally, no deals in the defense sphere are signed during high-level visits. It doesn't happen. But as you pointed out, in advance of that, they clear things that are ripe for movement on. And as you said, the S-400 missiles is definitely one. We have used up some during the little shootout we had with the Pakistanis recently, and we would need those missiles. As to understandings, yes, the high-level interaction gives an opportunity for giving guidance in what direction to move. I think, and I understand what you said, that the foreign ministry is telling you that there's not much in that happening at the moment, because if you look at it, the S-500, I think we have to still get the performance parameters, as far as I know, and to evaluate it, though it is very attractive in principle and there's no system to match it at the moment, but that lies ahead, way ahead, in my view. As to the Su-57, again, there are competitors out there. In my view, neither of them are very attractive. We don't know enough about the Su-57. We have to try it out in real life and see how we need to adapt it. Like all these equipments that we've bought from them, we've always adapted them and Indianized them. Su-30MKI, ISO Indian, T90S, S means also where it is adapted to the Indian requirement. So up here too, we would have to do the same. So that also lies way ahead. I think we would see on what basis and how people will go and examine and test, etc. And then finally, we also have our AMCA, so our own fighter plane, which fifth generation, which we hope to go ahead with. And we are planning to indigenize everything and move ahead bearing that in mind. So even if we do finally decide on any other country's export of a plane of that kind, we would be bearing in mind technology transfer arrangements available and what else we can do. And BrahMos is a outstanding example of our cooperation. It is India-made. There's no question of sanctions by anyone. It is not an import or an export. And if we agree on a BrahMos 2 version, I think that would be great. The country could benefit even more from it.
Okay. Ambassador Malhotra, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for summarizing the relationship with Russia in 5 questions, 5 topics for our viewers. A very interesting discussion, very helpful for our audience as well. We'll leave it there for the moment. It's time for a short break, but on the other side, flight cancellations at India's largest airline, Indigo, leave passengers stranded for the 3rd consecutive day. Close to 350 flights were cancelled by afternoon at 4 major airports alone. The Civil Aviation Minister summons Indigo and other stakeholders. We discussed this with Captain C.S. Randhawa, President of Federation of Indian Pilots, and former Air India Executive Director Jitendra Bhargav. Stay tuned.